Hello, good afternoon, or good morning, whatever the case may be. My name is Maria, and I'm coming to you today to show you how to hem sleeves on a coat or a jacket. This is a two-piece sleeve, two seams, already been pinned. You're going to need these items to execute the task. So you're going to have pins, you're going to have your measuring tape, cutting shears, small scissors, seam ripper, ruler. This is like a dissolvable chalk to mark. This works on these types of fabrics that are wool or cotton or any natural fibers. Be careful of it if it's a fabric that has any kind of sheen. It will leave a bit of a grease mark. So the first thing to do is to test it. Before you start anything, test it and put the iron on it. It will dissolve with the heat. When it dissolves, if it doesn't leave a mark, you're good to go. And the secret to a successful alteration is this: two simple safety pins. This is going to keep all the seams straight, and it helps so much with without allowing the lining on the inside to twist as you work. Now comes the pins. So I don't want to have the lining twisted when I start to work. Now the funny thing with these are with hemming sleeves is you're going to be working for the most part inside out and backwards. So you don't want to have anything go wrong, or as little as possible go wrong. So on the outside, I put a pin through the lining, just like this, through the lining and the fabric on both of them to hold them together. Doesn't matter whether you use this line or this line, this seam, as long as one of the seams are tacked down. And you do this to both sides. Now for this demonstration purpose, I will be only showing you the one side. The other side is basically a repeat. So here we go. Here we have the two safety pins. Now you're going to turn that sleeve. This has already been pinned on the wearer, and I've got it pinned here. So now I'm going to mark it. This is my dissolving chalk. So I'm going to take and I'm going to mark it on the inside. Remove the pin, and there you see the mark right here. There is the mark where I have to hem. So now I'm going to take and I'm going to continue marking the rest of the sleeve. So here we have 3 centimeters, and I'm going to draw a line. And here's my mark on this side and on that side. So I'm just going to join them together. Okay, so there's your mark. This is how much the sleeve has to be hemmed. Okay. Now that my sleeve is marked, I'm going to start taking it apart. Now what I did is I put a pin, the safety pin, on the seam here just to hold them together on both sides. So I went through the fabric as well as the lining right here. You can see the pin right there. There's the pin, and this will keep the seams from getting mixed up, and it'll keep it from getting twisted on the inside. Now when manufacturers have sew garments, they normally have an exit. So an exit strategy, and it's usually inside the sleeve. You can see that there's a seam on the outside of the fabric. So all you do is take it apart. Now for the most part, you're going to be working inside out and backwards when you hem sleeves. And you're going to be looking at me and saying, what? What is that? So here. See, it opens up quite easily once you get one of those threads. So you open it up, just like that. And then you take your sleeve and you pull it inside out. There you go. It's tacked down over here. The seams are tacked down on each other. This keeps the hem from rolling down. So the sleeves are hemmed down or tacked down. So I'm going to just quickly take them apart. It's just a little machine stitch that's back tacked. Here you have on the inside, you have a little bit of interfacing. This is a sew-in kind. For jackets, I am going to use the fusible interfacing right here when I'm ready to sew. So now I'm going to take the lining apart. I'm going to take apart the lining and the fabric, and that's easy enough to do if you can see the threads. There. The hardest part is the first thread right there. And then you can get it from the inside. The only place you have to be careful when taking it apart that way is where it was back tacked. And they back tacked it. Yes, they did. Okay, there we go. So now I have two separate pieces right here. Two separate pieces that are going to be put together once again. Okay, next step, I'm going to turn the sleeve right side out. There we go. And now I have to measure the amount that I have to cut off. So the hem allowance that was left by the manufacturer is 5 centimeters. So you can see that is 5 centimeters. I have to take it up 3, so 3 from the 5, so that's 8 centimeters, okay? Now, I want to leave the 5 centimeter hem allowance that the manufacturer left, just because that's the way it was designed, plus the client should not feel any difference in the garment, with the only exception is that it fits properly. So now I have my fold line, I have my cutting line, the hem allowance. So now I'm going to cut that. I've tucked the lining on the out of the way so it doesn't get cut. That will get cut separately. So here you have the 3 centimeters. This is going to get cut off right there. Okay, there's your excess. Now this is the sew-in interfacing. I'm just going to cut that right out because I'm not going to use that. I'm going to use the fusible one. And now the lining. The lining is, because now there it is there. Let me turn that right side out as well. And I'm just going to take, and I'm going to cut 3 centimeters from the lining, because the lining should be cut to the finished length of the jacket. So I'm cutting off the 3 centimeters. So we now have both the lining and the fabric cut. Now we're ready to put in the interfacing. I've cut a 5 centimeter strip of fabric, like so. So I took the excess that I cut off from the lining, and I'm going to cut off that same length, and I'm going to overlap it just a little bit, so I'm going to make it a little bit longer, and then I'm going to cut it to the full hem allowance. So here's my black chalk, and I'm going to cut it 5 centimeters, because that's how much hem allowance there is. So 5, 5, 5. Okay, we're good to go now. So now I've got my iron that's hot right here. I'm going to put on my interfacing with the fusible side down, the glue side down, hopefully. That mistake has been made. To be on the safe side, you might want to use a pressing cloth to press that down. I like to use a bit of steam to activate the glue. A damp pressing cloth on fusible interfacing works best. It really fuses it to the fabric. And you notice that I'm going over the seam allowances. That's fine. I'm not about to take them apart to fuse the interfacing to it. That's fine. There's a little overlap I did. Perfect. So you see, there it is there. Okay, so here you have the hem turned up, and it's going to be a nice crisp line with the interfacing that's there. Okay, so next step, we have to stitch the lining and the fabric together. And I like to call this, or we're going to origami them, and I use that in quotation marks, together because it is very counterintuitive. So you've got your lining and you've got your fabric, and you want to get the right sides together. The easiest way of doing it and making sure that you get the right seams together as well. So here you have the pin, here you have the seam that the pin is on. Here you have the right side of the fabric, the right side of the lining. So here's the seam. There's the seam on the fabric. There's the seam on the lining. You have to take and put them together like this, because that's the edge that you want on the outside. So you're going to grab both and you're going to pull them out. And you see what's going to happen? As you stitch, I'm just going to put a pin there so it doesn't move. And as you go around, they will be stitched together like this. Alright, so I've got my sewing machine ready to go. I have it pinned here. You don't necessarily need to pin. I mean, I rarely do. I just make sure that the seams are lined up. And because I pinned the seams together, I'll know which seam belongs where. Now I'm using white thread. You would be using, if you're doing it for yourself or for a client, you're going to be using the same color thread as the jacket. I'm going to be using white thread just because it's easier to see what I'm doing. So now I'm going to go, it doesn't matter which side you put down on the machine. Here's a hint. When using the machine, you put the loose side down, because the feed dogs, they tend to work that into, they ease that into the tighter fabric, or the tighter side. They do a great job of doing that. So the loose side down, in this case it's the lining. So I'm going to start, and I'm going to backtack. So I'm just giving it a 1 centimeter seam allowance, as it was. And I'm stitching it all the way around. I know that this is a bit counterintuitive, but this is the best way of doing it, and it comes out, you get a really professional finish, and it comes out very, very well, and it's actually quite simple to do. Now this jacket has no vent at the sides. The vent is very similar. You just want to redo the vent. It's, you know, a little bit more work. I'll have to show that at a later date. So let's get used to this one here now. done. Okay, so now that you've sewn together the sleeve, it's going to look like this. So you're going to be thinking, what? But trust me, it will all become clear. So just to recap, what we've done so far is step one, measured the sleeves on the body and pinned, marked the length with the dressmaker chalk, as I've shown, safety pin any one of the seams to avoid twisting on the inside. You've opened the seam lining on the lining on the inside of the sleeve to access the sleeve, to access this part here, otherwise you can't do it. Step 5, turn the sleeve inside out and taken apart the fabric and lining. That's when it was all apart. Turn to the right side and measure. So you have to take this part apart before you can measure, and cut off the excess of both the fabric and the lining. We added the interfacing on the inside for more stability, which was just added to the inside of the hem allowance. And we sewed it together with right sides together to reach this point. Okay, so now I'm going to press it, just to make sure that everything is where it's supposed to be. Perfect. The last thing that I have to do is just stitch this together to close it up, and then I'll turn it right side out. So I just do that. Now we turn it right side out and we'll see the end result. Perfect. And now you remove your safety pin. I'd like to thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope that you learned something in the process. It really is very simple, even though, as I said, it does seem to be a bit counterintuitive, but give it a try and let me know how you make out. If you want to know more information about my courses, go to cinchitpants.com and feel free to contact me or through YouTube anytime. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Take care and have a great day.